test. Can you guys hear me in the back? Good. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for showing up. I'm Will, co-founder of the San Antonio Bitcoin Club. Shout out to a lot of people who have helped to make everything here possible. Gabriel, our founder and leader. Beck, who helps us behind the scenes and gets no credit for anything. So what this is a bit of a crash course to the 5-week long flagship Mi Primer Bitcoin diploma course that we offer. San Antonio Bitcoin Club is a nonprofit education organization in Texas, and a lot of things that we lean on is education around Bitcoin. And so this kind of gives you a little intro into the 5-week course that we mentioned. It's a little bit about money, a little bit about Bitcoin. So please feel free to interrupt at any time. Questions are welcome. This is really just a high level intro, so feel free to ask questions at any time. All right, so a couple things we'll be going over. What is money? What money is, why it's broken, what Bitcoin is, how Bitcoin works. And one thing that I think is really cool about this program, and especially Mi Primer Bitcoin in particular, is, and you'll find this in the course that we offer, is we start by talking about the problem. And we don't really mention Bitcoin until about halfway through the course. You'll notice that here in this intro too, we talk about what the issue is and why the money that we use now is broken. So a little bit about My First Bitcoin, just to give them their props. They're a nonprofit organization in El Salvador that has, to date, graduated over 35,000 school-aged children. They're integrated within the El Salvador education system, and they're teaching this course over 10 weeks to school-aged children, all the way up to people in high school and at the college level as well. So they're doing a lot of good work, and what we are is a light node approved by My First Bitcoin to be able to teach their diploma course. So it's a really good endeavor that they're doing, and we're proud to be a part of it. Okay. So the first thing is, what is money? And let's see if this is going to go. Sorry. Okay. So start by reading a couple quotes, and then we're going to do a little fun interaction. So Henry Ford said, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand the banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." Another one, money is the most marketable good which people acquire because they want to offer it in later acts of interpersonal exchange. So it kind of begs the question, like, what exactly is money? Money is something that, like, we interact with every single day. We have it physically, we have it digitally on our phones, we talk about it, we work for it, we do everything. But when you start to think about it or try to answer that question, what actually is money? What should money do? What are the functions of money? And more specifically, what are the functions of good money and sound money? So to do that, I want to start by giving a couple people some candy. So we'll pretend that you own this already. You own candy, and I actually want candy. There you go. And there you go. All right. So if I offered to, I'll give you $5, Kayla, for your candy, would you take it? All right, but gee, I want to give you $2 for your candy. Would you take it? No, he said no. All right, what if I gave you 1,000 Monopoly dollars? Would that make a difference? You wouldn't take the Monopoly dollars? Well, why not? So I think that's the essential question, is the money is a means of exchange. It's something that we are able to use to transact with other people. And so, one thing that money is essentially a way to exchange goods and services. It represents the value of these items in a form that can be easily traded. So one thing we'll see coming up here also is money's kind of changed the form over time. And let's see, this thing is working. No, you're good. Okay. And so a minute ago, we talked about what good money could be. And so there are 3 functions of money that must be present for it to be a good, sound money. The first of it being a medium of exchange. Second, a store of value. And lastly, a unit of account. So a medium of exchange basically just meaning that it lets us exchange without having to barter. So, before money, when bartering was the only way to exchange goods and services, if I was a farmer and you were a fisherman and I wanted fish, but you don't want any of the things I have as a farmer, we can't barter. I'm not able to trade with you. So money just takes the place of it. It allows me to get the fish from you without you having to want what I have. So that's the medium of exchange and the function that money must have. Store value, kind of think of it in terms of the work that you put in today to be able to acquire money. Ideally, it'll store its value over time and at least not lose its value or purchasing power over time. And a unit of account is basically how we're able to compare the value or assign a value to a certain item or service. So if we're shopping for a car, I know that a $10,000 car versus a $50,000 car, there should be some significant differences in that. And it's represented by the money. Okay, so an example to use all of these. So say you go to H-E-B and you buy your groceries, that's using dollars as a medium of exchange. Right, but you save your dollars to pay your bills at the end of the month or to pay rent. That's a store of value. You're hoping that money is going to be able to pay your rent at the end of the month. And a unit of account is, like we said, going to buy a car and being able to compare prices with the money. Okay, moving along. So something that most people don't think about, but I think is kind of fun and cool, is how money's evolved over time. And the fact that money is not a government creation. Money is a human creation. And it's evolved over time to kind of meet the needs of the people at the time it's being used. And so we can go back to, we talked about bartering. Bartering was a major form of trade. But it got to the point where, again, you weren't able to trade with many people or different products. So money comes, and it takes different forms. Very primitive shells that were used to exchange goods and services, all the way up to precious metals. And money, it evolves. And so before banks or politicians got involved, people were figuring out ways to exchange goods and services with shells or with gold. But as money keeps evolving, governments become a thing. It kind of infiltrates the money, and governments take over. And so basically they replace sound, good money like metals or things that are agreed on between two parties with fiat. And fiat is issued by decree. And, in between the fiat and the precious metals, you'll see these things where financial institutions and governments will issue, bank loans that are backed by hard assets, but still physical paper money. And so as you start to replace, sound money with fiat, it's issued by decree. There's nothing really to back it besides the trust of the people that are forced to use it. So that's where we get to something that is forcing an alternative and something digital, decentralized. It's a shift that from the money that evolved naturally to money that is controlled by governments. It's one of the most important changes that I see in the history, and it affects all of us today, actually. So the consequences of these government-issued fiat monies, a lot of times we'll see it as inflation. We can also think of it in terms of shrinkflation or deterioration. So just the general degrading of products, quality, quantity. The price also can just rise. Like if you think of, and I'll go to the next slide for this one actually, because it gives a really good representation. This is one of my favorite slides. So since 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, the dollar has lost 96% of its value from 1917 to 2007, 1913 to 2017. So this is actually almost 10 years old too. It's worse. So you think about that. And one question that's kind of interesting is everything in our lifetime has become more expensive. I can't think of one thing that is less expensive in my lifetime, or even stay the same outside of maybe like a Costco hot dog or something. But everything, homes, cars, the stocks in the stock market, everything is going up in price. You look at charts for 40 years, it's all up and to the right, right? But what it's really happening is the measuring stick for those instruments, the house, the car, the stocks, is losing its value. So it's not that those things, like your house is made of gold now or your car lasts 10 times longer. None of that is true. Your house didn't magically gain much more value. It's that the measuring stick and the unit of account for those items is degrading. So the prices may seem to rise, but your money is actually buying less. And that's why people look to alternatives. And one that we're really excited about is Bitcoin. And so we'll get to talk about that now a little bit. So what is Bitcoin? It's a lot of things. It's decentralized. It's a digital currency. It's finite, and it exists outside of the control of governments or banks. So it's limited in the sense that we know the distribution cycle of Bitcoin. We know the issuance. This video is going to compare a little bit of the difference between fiat money and an introduction into what Bitcoin is. So I'll just kind of let it do its thing, and then we'll talk after that. All right.
When money is easy to make, society begins to break.
So how do we make money that's easy to carry but hard to create?
Well, one solution is Bitcoin. Back in 2008, I became fed up with government money, with the corruption, the manipulation, so I created a digital currency. Digital money that can be sent directly from one person to another without any bank or government involved. And the best part? It's hard money.
It's the hardest money ever invented!
Bitcoin is very hard to make more of. Each new coin gets added to the supply only after a computer works very hard to solve a math problem, where there's no shortcut and solving it costs a lot of energy and time.
Okay, but if it's on a computer, can't I just copy and paste?
Not with Bitcoin. You see, there's a public record of every Bitcoin ever created. It's called the blockchain. It's like a puzzle, and each Bitcoin has its own unique shape. And because everyone has a copy of the public record, if someone tries to fake a Bitcoin, it won't fit the puzzle and will be rejected by the network before anyone can use it. That's why Bitcoin is so safe from criminals and the government.
You said criminals twice.
And unlike dollars, which can be printed endlessly, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. It's almost impossible to inflate. The only way to get it is to earn it or buy it from someone who has.
Aha!
No offense, but if you control Bitcoin, couldn't you manipulate it just like the government?
I don't control it. No one person does. It's controlled by a public network of Bitcoin users that anyone can join. So if someone wanted to change something in Bitcoin's code, they would need to get the majority of the millions of Bitcoin users to agree to it, or the change doesn't happen. And when has the majority of us agreed on anything?
One-ply toilet paper is garbage.
Touché.
Wow, I didn't know made-up money could make so much sense.
Today, millions of people send Bitcoin instantly and cheaply to each other around the world without any bank or government involved. And because Bitcoin is hard money you can't just print more of, the more people who use it, the more valuable it becomes.
Emily, if we take Lyle's Bitcoin, we could be rich.
I could pay for college entirely! You could outsource your movie and pay to have your name in the credits.
Slow down. I'm not saying that Bitcoin will make you rich quick, or even at all. Right now, only about 1% of the world owns Bitcoin. And because it's still being adopted, some days it goes up and even down.
Also, investments, though potentially lucrative, can be risky.
Only invest what you're willing to lose. We know. Wow, I think I get it. Good money should be easy to use, but hard to create.
And because Bitcoin is digital, it's fast and cheap to use. And the blockchain makes it hard to inflate.
Thanks, Mr. Satoshi.
What?
Mr. Satoshi?
He's gone? Or was he ever even here?
Okay, so what we'll do here is compare Bitcoin, this new idea, to the traditional fiat system. And just some eye-popping obvious differences. Fiat obviously is centralized. It's closed and controlled by banks and governments. There's an unlimited supply, and something I think we've all seen recently is the ability to print dollars, and fiat is just infinite. So it's no wonder that the value that those dollars bring and the purchasing power that those dollars have continues to drop. The alternative that we're talking about is Bitcoin, and it is pretty much the opposite of fiat. It's decentralized, it's open source, and it's peer-to-peer. It's uncounterfeitable, at least most people would agree, and finite in the sense that we know the distribution, we know the cap, the 21 million. So it's a money that's designed to do exactly the opposite of what the fiat system has done to, to the human condition for its entire time. A few things about Bitcoin that are worth clearing up. So Bitcoin, the unit of account, it's a monetary unit, and it does break down into what we call satoshis, or 8 decimal points. 8 decimal points to the right. So you can think of it in terms of 0.00 whatever Bitcoin, or if you just move the decimal point all the way 8 places to the right, consider them satoshis. You can have things such as 1,000,000 satoshis or 875,642 satoshis, and it's all a representation of 100 million satoshis. That equals 1 Bitcoin. So the next part, Bitcoin, and this basically boils down to Bitcoin being 3 different things. So Bitcoin is the monetary unit. Bitcoin is also the network, and the network are these nodes, these computers, rule setters that make sure that the Bitcoin that I'm wanting to send to Beck is my Bitcoin and I control it. And once the nodes confirm that, then they pass it on and the transaction goes to the miners. But these connected nodes, they follow this common rule set. And like the video said, anybody can run a node and be a part of the consensus network that makes sure that the Bitcoin rules are being followed. And then the blockchain, Bitcoin is the blockchain. It's a linked record of verified transactions. And each time a block is confirmed on top of another block, it's just making that previous confirmation more secure because it's being secured by all the miners and all the nodes across the network. So Bitcoin is a lot of things. It mentioned peer-to-peer. And so this will kind of give you a bit of a life cycle of a transaction, which is kind of cool. So, so when you send Bitcoin, right, someone requests a transaction. And a minute ago, we mentioned how to make sure that if I'm sending Bitcoin or requesting Bitcoin, that I own the Bitcoin I'm going to send. The transaction is broadcasted in a peer-to-peer network that we run these nodes on. And nodes, this is something along with a few other things in this course that we really encourage people to come to the 5-week flagship course, because it goes a little bit more in depth in a lot of this. And one thing that's really at the top of a lot of people's tongues right now on the node side is running core versus not. So it's something that we'd like to talk about more in depth as well. But it does pass on to that so that the miners verify the transactions. And again, getting onto the blockchain, these are combined to form a block, and then a new block is added on top. And this is how the blockchain keeps progressing. So it technically is a peer-to-peer network. It depends on, and something we'll get into here, whether you're owning the keys to the wallet that you're interacting with or not. It really does change. Oops, excuse me. Okay. Let's see. Right. Bitcoin is sound money. So we mentioned a bit ago how in fiat you're able to print. This is the money supply, just a straight chart going straight up. The US dollar and how much has been printed. Comparing it to Bitcoin, which we know its issuance, we mentioned earlier, but I want to go in a little more depth into it now so that you can see the difference. We know the issuance of Bitcoin because it's programmed into the protocol. It's ideally going to produce a block every 10 minutes. And the way it does that is every epoch is about 2,016 blocks, which represents about 2 weeks. And the goal being to keep each block produced every 10 minutes on average. And every 2 weeks, those last 2016 blocks, the average time is taken, and if it's more or less than 10 minutes, it affects the difficulty rate. So if it's higher than 10 minutes, the difficulty rate will increase so that it'll lower. And if it's lower than 10 minutes, the difficulty will drop so that it's going to average that 10 minutes. And that's how we know that in around 2140 is going to be the time that the last block is mined. Because on average, there will be one every 10 minutes. And we know the issuance of each block. Right now, it's 3.125 Bitcoin. We've experienced 4 halvings now. 3 halvings. 4 halvings. Starting at 50 Bitcoin per block, cutting it to 25, 12.5, 6.125, 3 point, something like that, yeah. So one thing that I think should really be mentioned is Bitcoin isn't really just by accident, and it's come from a long line of people who've contributed different pieces that, you know, Bitcoin has either taken or you know, maybe made a little bit better over time. But a couple of the cool ones I kind of want to point out in this timeline are, where's it at? Yeah, Hughes, the Cypherpunks Manifesto in 1993. This was kind of the culmination of a bunch of privacy advocates and just people who were tired of being kind of pushed on by the government. Really smart people that kind of went to, they're advocates that believed in encryption and technology could defend the individual's rights. And so it's a real big part of the 5-week course that we talk about, or that I've been talking about. So I encourage you to show up because that's a really cool part of how Bitcoin became what it is. And another one is the reusable proof of work from Hal Finney in 2004. Hal Finney was a really early adopter and communicator with whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is in the early parts of Bitcoin. So passed away. He's still been a very a very big part of the Bitcoin movement. But this just gives you a little bit of history of what's been accumulating over time to create what Bitcoin is. It's trial and error. It's collaboration. And it led to the Spark in 2008, which came as the white paper. It was published by Satoshi Nakamoto. So it wasn't an accident. Again, it was a culmination of decades of human innovation aimed at building money that works for people. Okay, so a Bitcoin wallet. It's the interface which you use to send and receive Bitcoin, simply. You can think about it in terms of a digital version of the wallet which you carry your dollars or your digital dollars in now, with a very few important distinctions. A Bitcoin wallet can be one of two things, and we'll go over that in the next slide, custody or non-custody. And non-custody is always going to be the way that we would suggest going. Not your keys, not your coin is a ethos that you'll hear Bitcoiners say often. And a Bitcoin wallet that is non-custodial, meaning you control, comes with a few things. So a seed phrase is a part, it's what makes up your private key. And you can think of your private key as your password to your account. That's something you don't want to share with people. You can think of the public key as your account number. It's something you kind of want to keep private, and you don't want everyone to know it. But if somebody needs to send you something, you can share your account number with someone. Again, and then the address, Bitcoin address, is where you would actually share with somebody who wants to send you money. And a wallet can produce many, many addresses so that you don't have to reuse addresses also. So we'll take a look here at the differences. And then we're going to go through a little process of creating a non-custodial or self-custodied wallet. The difference, again, is the signing key and the fact that you are, there's no intermediaries. You own the Bitcoin versus a custodial wallet where, I don't know, you may think of something like Coinbase or these exchanges, centralized exchanges, where you don't own the Bitcoin. you're kind of just owning a claim to the Bitcoin, and you don't hold the keys. So, that's just basically not your Bitcoin. Okay. So this is where I'm going to use this. Okay. So we're going to use a wallet. It's called Phoenix, and this is a really good option to have both Lightning and on-chain wallets. It also is a non-custodial or self-custodied wallet. So we'll be able to go through the process of creating the wallet, backing up the seed, verifying it in the application, and generating an invoice and sending Bitcoin as well. Okay, so for that, I'm going to switch over here. And this is Phoenix Wallet. Gabriel turned me on to this recently. It's actually really smooth. I know they had left the US for a while, but are back in the App Store. It's a really good option to be able to hold your own keys and have both Lightning and on-chain wallet in the same software. So after you downloaded Phoenix Wallet, this is basically the welcome screen. And we're going to go through a few steps here, but I'm going to zoom through this beginning. Your keys, your Bitcoins, self-custody like we talked about, you take control. And so there's two ways to do this. If you had another wallet, you could restore your wallet. You would need to upload the keys, or you would need the private key. Upload the seed phrase or have the private key. But what we're going to do here is create a new wallet. And I went through this earlier. It actually creates a wallet, but what you have to do to go through that process that we talked about, it's a little different in this wallet, so I had to find it. So we're going to go through the recovery phrase here, and I'm going to read this because it is pretty important. The recovery phrase, sometimes called a seed, is a list of 12 words. It allows you to recover full access to your funds if needed. Only you possess this seed. Keep it private. And obviously we're doing this to where everybody's going to see, but you would do this in the privacy of your own home with no one watching, not online like we are now. Don't share this seed with anybody. Beware of phishing. Always assume the worst. The developers of Phoenix will never ask you for your seed. They're giving a lot of discouraging right here. So what you will want to do is display the seed, and you're going to agree to these two things. Basically, we're going to go through it, but you want to make sure you write these 12 words down. They are important. Their order is important. This is how you are able to recover your Bitcoin should you lose your phone, which is basically your only means of having that wallet. So your seed phrase can save you if you lose your phone or your wallet or your access to this wallet. Here's the 12 words. This is randomly generated. If you come to the course that we're talking about, the 5-week course, we do go through a little bit of generating this and how there's different ways that you can, be even more sovereign by creating this through Entropy on your own, or you can use software that does it for you as well. So what we would do here, there's the 12 words. They're all numbered. You'd write them down in order, and there's different levels to the sovereignty of this. I mean, it's not advised that you keep this on a piece of paper and just put it in, in a junk drawer. This is something that, depending on the level of the amount of Bitcoin you're holding in here, how much of your wealth is being in this wallet, you treat this like this is the ultimate important information that you need to recover your funds. So there's levels to where you can implant this on steel. There's a lot of different ways that you can make sure to not share this information and save it for a very long time. We're happy to go through different options with you on that. We do offer some kind of personalized services so we can help people set up with wallets. But for this purpose, we're just going to kind of go through this. You would write this down, save it in a password saver. Again, I would suggest something like putting it on steel and hiding it. Once you do, though, you have that saved. Whoops. You would agree to basically that you have saved them. You can also back it up on the cloud. I wouldn't suggest doing that. does anybody have a Lightning wallet that they want to send to so we can kind of, you know what, I do. So this wallet's set up. We would make sure that you have those seed phrase words written down, and it's basically ready and able to receive Bitcoin or send Bitcoin. To receive, it's really cool, the interface that it gives you the option to, this is Lightning, you can see at the bottom, it's got the little lightning bolt. And if you click the other one, the on-chain, it's going to give you an on-chain address that you can send to. So I'm going to send a little bit of sats on Lightning so we can see it go through quick. We'll send 1,000 sats. So just sent now. Thought it would give me a fun little one payment incoming. Rejected. This is not good for the video. Why was it rejected? Oh, I probably don't have any liquidity on there, right? We didn't think that through. I probably would have to put more. And it would have to be on chain. Yeah. It doesn't have a minimum though. Doesn't, it's going to tell you if that's enough for liquidity? Save. That one went through. It did take half of it, yeah. Okay, so the 1,000 wasn't enough, but 3,000 was, and it put, yeah, it took half of it. Right, exactly. It's a good point. This is something that we would be getting into more deeply into the course. This is, again, kind of just showing how to set up a wallet. Want to go back to the... What did I do back? That's what it is. Sorry, that was a little rough. Okay. And then I should have control here. So there's a really cool app called BTC Maps, and it's something we're hoping to get a little bit more involved with. It looks just like this. You can zoom in. It's just like Google Maps, but it shows you a bunch of places anywhere on the planet where you can spend your sats. And we've actually done a little work, and you can kind of see some of it if you zoom in. A lot of places in Austin, but our goal is to be able to help businesses come onto the Bitcoin circular economy, start accepting Bitcoin as payment, and get them onto BTC Maps. So it's just a cool thing. If you're ever traveling, you can kind of pull up BTC Maps, see what places around you accept Bitcoin, and then you're able to spend sats. Let's see. I think we're about to wrap this up. So just a few key points. Obviously, there's something wrong with the money, and the fiat is, no fiat has ever lasted the course of history. Every one of them, may flourish, but it ends up dying. So since 2009, we've had this alternative called Bitcoin, and it's using it as simple as downloading a wallet and saving Bitcoin instead of dollars. Sorry. So lastly, we want to put this out there. We are, again, doing a lot of education initiatives. If you're interested in staying up to date with what the San Antonio Bitcoin Club is doing, we encourage you to follow us on all the socials, sign up for our email list where we will let people know what's going on and future events and updates. I think that's it. Thank you to all of you who stayed so late for this.